I want to talk about doing good when you can't do perfect. Doing good when you can't do perfect. 2 Chronicles 29. And I think this principle, so you have in life, you have decisions. But if you get principles make most of your decisions. You don't have to decide everything if you have principles to decide things. Seek ye first the kingdom of God is a principle, okay? That decides a whole bunch of things. Should I go to church, or should I work on Sunday or go to church? Well, seek ye first the kingdom of God. Be not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. Don't yoke up don't have fellowship with darkness. Well, that decides a whole bunch of things for me. I don't need to decide every single decision. And this principle here, it's a principle that I use a lot, and I've had to use a lot because of the way our church started, and because of the desire. And just the desire that God has given me to do great things, and just where we've been in life as I've done this a lot, and it really helps me. And a lot of people get a little paralyzed with that, not understanding this principle. Doing good when you can't do perfect. Hopefully it'll help you to remember these things and help you make some decisions. Verse 33, and the consecrated things were 600 oxen and 300,000 sheep. But the priests were too few, so that they could not flay all the burnt offerings. Wherefore their brethren the Levites did help them, till the work was ended, and until the other priests had sanctified themselves. For the Levites were more upright in heart to sanctify themselves than the priests. And also the burnt offerings were in abundance, with the fat of the peace offerings and the drink offerings, and for every burnt offering. So the service of the house of the Lord was set in order. And Hezekiah rejoiced, and all the people, that God had prepared the people, for the thing was done suddenly. Let's go ahead and pray. Lord, thank you for the Bible. Thank you for all that it gives us. Thank you, it gives us direction in life. And thank you, it gives us some examples of things in the Bible and that people were going through that are kind of like things we go through, Lord. Thank you for a practical book, and in a book that teaches us perfectly what we should do in an imperfect world. And I pray tonight that your Spirit would help us, we would hear from you, and that, Lord, we would get this, and you would apply it personally to each person. We just need you tonight. We ask for your help. We thank you we can have confidence that you want us to learn the Word of God. You want us to be impacted. You want your Word to be anointed and to not return void. And so with all those things, we ask for you to work and you to bless and you to move in the message tonight. I just yield myself to you and ask for your help in Jesus' name. Amen. I had a roommate in college, and a good guy, and he was like me. He had a little bit of a character issue, and he like I did sometimes, because I just grew up with no discipline and kind of was thrown into fire. Him, I don't know exactly why, but he just had some character issues, and he would wake up, and I was roommates for a while with him, a couple years, and he would wake up, and he'd have an 8 o'clock class, and he'd wake up at 8 o'clock. And how many of you, if you woke up at 8 o'clock and you had to be in class by 8:10, you think you can make it? How many could do that? All right, those fast dressers. How many of you couldn't even get out of bed in 10 minutes? Raise your hand, okay? And so he woke up, and I said, hey, you got to get up, man. You got class. It's 8 o'clock class. And I was just leaving the room, and he'd sit up and go, oh, no, this is stupid. I'm going to be late anyway. And he'd roll back and go to bed. And so I would come back at after the 8 o'clock class, before the 9 o'clock class, because I knew he might still be sleeping, and I'd go down there and say, hey, man, you need to get up. It's your 9 o'clock class. And he'd jump up and sit up out of bed and say, oh, man, this is terrible. You know what? If I get up now, I'm gonna be late anyway, and I'm gonna be late. You know what? I'll just get up for 10 o'clock class. And he'd do that over and over, and he would do it, and then he missed chapel. When he missed chapel, he get a bunch of demerits. And he said, I already missed my first 2 classes. I might as well miss my third. And that's what he'd say. And then he would not get up, and then he would, of course, lose those credits. Me, I'd wake up at 8 o'clock for my 8:10 class. And by the way, I have a dress shirt on and tie and everything. See, you have these things called pre-tied ties, and you would. I would run down the hallway brushing my teeth as I ran. I would toss my toothbrush into the sink as I ran by, wipe my mouth as I'm running upstairs, and run to class and get there at 8:09, and make the class. Well, I graduated. He, at 13 years, still in college, 13 years, his GPA was so low you couldn't get your diploma if your GPA was so low in your Bible classes and such like that. His GPA was so low, he figured out he'd have to say about 19 years of straight A's more. You'd have to be with 19 years total of straight A's to get it up to a C. And they said, why don't you just graduate with a 1-year general studies degree? 13 years to get a 1-year degree. Why? Because he missed his first class, he might as well miss his second class. Miss your second class, might as well miss your third class. And I want to teach you a little bit about that from this story here. Hezekiah was a king, and he became king, and he decided to serve the Lord. He was a good king. And he was king of Judah, the southern kingdom, and Israel was in a mess. And Israel was really, really a mess. And he decided to serve the Lord. But it was a big hill to climb. Literally, the temple, the doors were barred shut. It was full of garbage, and it was desecrated and piles of garbage around it. And the priests and Levites and all the people who were supposed to do the holy services, they weren't even near the building, and people were in idolatry, and the whole thing was a mess. And he decided to serve the Lord. Now it's going to be a big hill to climb. He must have thought, goodness, first I've got to get the priests and round them up and tell them, hey, you got to go back and sanctify yourself. See, a priest couldn't just start doing the service of God. There was a process of sanctification. And if you were unclean, you couldn't do it. And you had to become clean and be sanctified. And most of these people had not been anywhere near that, and they were defiled, and they had to go through the process to be sprinkled with blood and sprinkled with water and a whole bunch of rituals and things like that. And it just was a big, massive hill of complications. We got to get the temple open. We got to repair the building. And who knows if anybody in the country even wants to do this. But you know what? We got to do this thing. And I'm king, and I'm the leader, and I've got to take the first step. And so, number one, he began at the house of God. He began at the house of God. His first step, verse 3, it said, he, in the first year of his reign, in the first month, opened the doors of the house of the Lord and repaired them. That's just so beautiful. What did he do? He said, guys, see those doors? Open them and fix them. That's just the first. Before you do anything, you just got to get the doors open. And I can't tell you, look, when you want to start something big or fix something messed up or anything like that, you don't bite off. You don't eat a pie in one bite. Some of you do, but you're not supposed to. And you don't eat, you know what you do? Guys, let's just open the doors of God's house. Get the garbage out of the way. Let's see if they're open. If they won't open or the hinges are broken, then fix the hinges. Let's just make sure the doors open and close. That's what he started. And that's what you need to do. You need to say, okay, let's just start. What's something I can do? Let's just start with that. If you let the devil pile on you and tell you how much you're going to have to do and how this could happen and give you evil surmises and this might happen and this is probably not going to work, and this, if you don't just start with something, you're going to find out you get too discouraged to ever start something. And you never fix your messes. They just start at the house of God. First, let's just open the doors. And verse 4, and he brought in the priests and the Levites and gathered them together into the east street. And said unto them, hear me, ye Levites, sanctify yourselves and sanctify the house of the Lord of your fathers, and carry forth the filthiness out of this place. First thing he had to do is just get God's house right. He had to get God's house right. And the first thing I always tell anybody, no matter what their situation, I just went through a terrible divorce. I'm in a big mess. My finances are terrible. I'm in real trouble. I just ruined my life. I'm addicted. I'm discouraged. I've been out of church for 20 years. First thing I always tell, go to God's house and get it right with God's house. If you can just get to church, because the house is the church of God in the New Testament. If you can just get to church, start going faithfully, you'll be surprised. Just that step of getting right with the house of God just starts building you. And so many people think, well, as soon as I get everything right, I can go to the house of God. That's the wrong way to do it. As I've said before, it's like saying as soon as I get healthy, I'll go to the hospital. The house of God helps you get right. And you just need to say, I just need to go to church. I'm so messed up. If you think you're not allowed to come to church here until you got your act together, can I tell you, you're wrong. We got people without their acts together. Okay? And people who don't have everything together. And you just got to start with God's house. That's it. The book of Acts, first thing they did, they got saved, went to church. Just start there and start growing. And it's the greenhouse. It's spiritual. It begins the house of God. Let's get the house of God right. In a spiritual sense, that's what needs to happen to America. How are we going to fix America? Get the house of God right. America won't be saved by Washington, D.C. America won't be saved by Olympia. If you think we're gonna get everything fixed in all those different ways, no. It's got to start at the churches. The reason America's in a mess is because of churches. Because churches drop the ball. Because there's no moral conscience. Because preachers don't preach the word of God anymore. Because of compromise and weakness and worldliness in the church. And the average Christian doesn't know, his head from a coconut. And they don't know doctrine. And they don't have holiness and righteousness. And they don't have those things. It's supposed to start with God's house. I think of a cool verse in 1 Peter and chapter 4. Well, we got to get these politicians. We got to get these people all right and this and that. How? Without God's plan? Through secular means? How about starting with church and getting the house of God right? 1 Peter 4:17 says, "For the time has come that judgment must begin at the house of God. For if it first begin at us, what will be the end of them that do not obey the gospel of God?" Judgment must begin at the house of God. You want to say, man, how are we going to get the church all straightened out? You start with yourself. Then you can see good enough to take something out of somebody else's eye. And then once you get yourself right, then let's get the church right. Once the church is right, we can start getting society right. The problem is churches. And the house of God's got to get fixed. House of God has got to get fixed. That's the problem. When preachers used to thunder out the word of God and churches were preaching the word of God and winning souls and holy, and Christians went back during the week and lived for God and what they ought to be, the nation had some guilt and conviction because the Holy Spirit and righteousness and truth has not fallen in the street. These things were all around there, and people felt guilty. And normal looked weird. Abnormal looked weird and wrong looked wrong. And now, everything's so messed up. It's so weird. And you're just looking going, don't you realize how wrong that is? No. Because it's got to start with the house of God. Number 2, it's not the message, so I better stop before I go too far on that one. It began at home. And back here in verse 20, let's go back to the chapter here. It started with close. Verse 20 says, "And Hezekiah the king rose early and gathered the rulers of the city and went up to the house of God and brought 7 bullocks and 7 rams and 7 lambs and so forth." What did he do? He started off with the doors of the house of God. He opened the doors. Then he said, all right, priests and Levites, sanctify yourselves and clean it out. They're the ones who are supposed to do the service of God. And then he went to rulers of the city, just Jerusalem, just the city, and said, okay, guys, let's go and offer offerings to God. Let's go get right with God ourselves. We're the leaders of the city. And it started with the local city. You still have all of your region and your country of Judea. You got Israel up in the north. You got all that to do. But he says, let's just start with our city. Just start with our city. That's always God's pattern. If you follow Acts 1:8, it says, you shall be witnesses unto me in Jerusalem. That's a city. Same city, by the way. Judea. Next, the region, the area around there. That'd be like saying, let's start with the gospel at Kent, and then Puget Sound, and then Washington, and then the U.S., and then the uttermost part of the world. The Bible always starts at home. It starts with you yourself, then it goes to your family, then it goes to those around you, and then it goes farther out. Because everybody wants to fix things far away and criticize things far away instead of taking care of things at home. But he said, all right, now we got the priests, we got the Levites. Started with me as a king. Now we got the house of God open. At least we stand a chance. Now we got the priests and Levites sanctified. Now let's take the leaders of the city and get them right. Because it always starts at home and begin there. And they did that. Next, they began to praise as they did this. And verse 25, all the way to verse 30, they began to praise. And he set the Levites in the house of the Lord with cymbals and psalteries and harps, and according to the commandment of David and Gad the king's seer, and that's the way we're supposed to do it, and Nathan the prophet. And for so was the commandment of the Lord by the prophets. Get the singers ready and have them sing, and the priests and the trumpets and so forth. And they began to do those things, and they began to get the instruments in verse 27 and verse 28. And the congregation worshiped, and the singers sang, and the trumpeters sounded, and all this continued until the burnt offering was finished. They began to do burnt offerings, and they began to play music during it, and they began to praise. And music was right. Can I tell you how important that is? When you are down, when you're in darkness, when you're struggling with a battle, when you are discouraged and stuff like that, get some good, godly Christian music. But I want to tell you something. Your appetite when you are down and discouraged and everything else will not be good, godly, uplifting Christian music. Your appetite is going to be garbage. And you'll want to listen to music that's depressing and dark. It's the same thing. Look, you know what happens when you start eating garbage and junky food and get out of shape and get really unhealthy? You know what you want? Garbage food. Boy, I just got awfully lonely up here. You want grease, and you want fat, and you want why? That's just what happens when you're unhealthy. You want unhealthy food, and when you're unhealthy emotionally, spiritually, your appetite will not say go eat the broccoli and the carrots and the soup and the good stuff. Don't eat the stuff that's going to help you. Go pop in a bag of Doritos. And music, don't follow your appetite. Your appetite's messed up. You need good music. It'll lift you. It'll lift you. It'll lift your spirit. They began to praise. Next, they were blessed and prospered by God. Verse 35 and 36. I'm gonna leave a little bit out because we'll get back to it in a moment here. But it says in verse 35 and 36, and also the burnt offerings were in abundance, with the fat of the peace offerings and the drink offerings and every burnt offering. So the service of the house of the Lord was set in order. And Hezekiah rejoiced, the guy who started it all, and all the people, that God had prepared the people, for the thing was done suddenly. The thing was done suddenly. Yeah, it just went boom, 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 boom. And Hezekiah said, this is awesome. I didn't expect this to go this well. Wow, we just had our burnt offerings. We just got the temple going again. We just went and the whole city came together, and we just sanctified ourselves, and we praised, and we just spent our offerings, and the whole city just had revival. This is great. That happened fast. I thought this was going to be a big, long, brutal road. And that's what he thought, but God prospered it when they decided to do that. Next, where the message is there are problems and complications. There are problems and complications. Chapter 30 and verse 1. Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judea and wrote their letters to Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Lord at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Lord God of Israel. For the king had taken counsel, and his princes and all the congregation of Jerusalem, to keep the Passover in the 2nd month. For they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently. Neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem, and the thing pleased the king and all the congregation. I'm going to explain to you a lot of things that are little details in here, but there's a whole bunch of problems in here. They could not, first of all, they wanted to keep the Passover. So they started this thing, and all of a sudden, boom, 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 everything fell into place. And they said, the temple's going. We can have Passover. That's a command of God. We're supposed to have Passover. And then all of a sudden, he said, let's try to have the Passover. And the priest said, we're not ready to do Passover. We're not sanctified. There's not enough of us yet. You're inviting Israel. Remember, they're in the southern kingdom. They're inviting the rest of Judah, not just Jerusalem. They're inviting the other kingdom to come down here because, hey, we're supposed to keep the Passover. And the priests say, we're not ready. There's not enough of us. I mean, we did it for Jerusalem barely, but really, we weren't ready for that. And we can't do this stuff till we're sanctified. And you know what? We're behind schedule, and we're supposed to keep Passover on whatever on November 20th, and it's November 19th, and we're not ready. And we got problems. This is a mess. We're going to have to move Passover, which we're really not supposed to do, but we really feel like we should keep Passover. But God gave us the dates. They sent out letters to Israel, but most of them were rejected, and not just rejected, but look at verse 10. So the posts, the letters they sent out for people to come for the Passover, they delayed it, and they set it ahead a couple months. Well, what are the people going to say? It's not even doing it at the right time. And they didn't want to anyway. They weren't spiritual, but now they got their out. And the post passed from city to city throughout the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, even unto Zebulun, and they laughed them to scorn and mock them. Okay, everything went great, good start. Now comes the problems. Now comes the troubles. They mocked them and laughed at them. And the report came back and said, we went to all those cities, we went to all those countries. Look, they mocked us, they made fun of us, they put us in the middle of the city and said, they're going to have the Passover in the wrong month. And you know what? They're going to serve God, and they've been forsaking God all those years. What a joke. Who does this king think he is? He thinks he's going to make that country spiritual again, and they're going to have their Passover at the wrong time, and their priests aren't sanctified. They laughed at them, mocked them. And they did that to them. One of the most discouraging things about leadership is, number one, if you want to do anything, you face obstacles. You know the easiest thing for Hezekiah to do? Absolutely nothing. There's no obstacles to nothing. If you aim at nothing, you'll hit it every time. And one of the hardest things about leadership is you've got to go do things, and to do anything important and good, it's hard. And there's obstacles. And you've got to say, I got to overcome this, and I got to battle this, and I'm going to face this discouragement, and there's going to be complications. I got to figure this out. It doesn't matter what you want to do. You want to go to college instead of all of a sudden you feel like, I need to go to college. It looks complicated to go to college. You got to figure out all your credits. You got to do this. You want to go and get married. You know what? There's going to be complications to getting married. There's all kinds of things you have to take, steps you have to take, and go through a process. And Pastor Byram is going to make you go through incredible, mean premarital counseling. And you're going to have to figure out how to go to the city, and where do you get a marriage permit, and how do you make a man clean up after himself? You don't. And how do you? And there's a whole bunch of complications you have to figure out. And anything in life that's good, you have to climb a hill. Everybody wants a great view. They just don't want to climb to the top of the mountain. So what do? You stay in the hole and enjoy your view, because you don't have to climb anything. And that's all you'll see the rest of your life. It's very hard to lead when you decide to do things. Why? Because it's always hard. There's always setbacks. It's always difficulties. Secondly, because people who do nothing will point out the problems and mock you. It's an amazing thing. The people, I wouldn't mind if someone who did more than me mocked me because I wasn't doing very much. Asian people who do absolutely nothing tell me why doing something is so hard and won't work. Same thing happened in Nehemiah. Same thing happened. It's an old story of the people who tell you when you decide, I'm going to do this, and they say, oh, if you do that, this is probably going to happen, and this will probably happen, and it's not going to work. And that's what happens. Because it's not easy to do something. And it's not easy to do good things. But God sent good people. And that's the great thing about this, is God was in on this thing. And so he sent good people. Verse 12. Also in Judah, the hand of God was to give them one heart to do the things, to do the commandment of the king and of the princess by the word of the Lord. God, a whole bunch of people rejected it and laughed at them and stuff like that, but God gave him the people who wanted to do it, and he gave them one heart, just something God did, and they can do this thing. I'm so glad. I have been so blessed, and it's unusual, is my friends and my ministry friends are all people who do not discourage me when I say we're going to do something big. They don't laugh at it. I've been around those guys, and I don't hang around them. Why do you hang around someone who's just going to tell you why you can't? And by the way, just quick note, you know why they tell you you can't? Because misery loves company. They want to keep you with them. You will make them feel bad if you have a great life. They want you to have as bad a life as them, because then they won't feel bad about their life. And so they're going to drag you down. And just avoid those people. But God still sent good people. Next, there are problems and complications. Next is the sermon is, and this is what I want to say the most, is don't slay the good at the altar of the perfect. Don't slay the good stuff on the altar of the perfect. Hezekiah could not have perfect that year. That's simple. And what many people do is they kill the good that they could be doing because they can't have perfect, and they just sacrifice the good. Not understanding you're in a sin-cursed world, do not sacrifice the good on the altar of the perfect. I can say this in so many ways and illustrate it in so many ways. Let me just show you why there was a bunch of things that just weren't right and just were difficult for them. Let's look at chapter 30 and verse 17. As they're trying to get this Passover together. For there are many of the congregation that were not sanctified. Therefore the Levites had the charge of the killing of the Passover for everyone that was not clean, to sanctify them unto the Lord. Boy, you didn't have enough priests properly sanctified. You didn't have enough priests beforehand. I'll show you. It was already a problem before this. In chapter 29 and verse 34, it says the priests were too few so that they could not flay all the burnt offerings. The process they're supposed to do in the sacrifices, they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it for Jerusalem. They weren't enough priests sanctified. And then when the Passover came, they invited everybody for the Passover. They didn't have enough sanctified. And the priests weren't supposed to do it. They weren't sanctified. And so it was not perfect. It just wasn't. There were not enough priests sanctified. They had changed the date that God ordained. And God picked the date. And you read, he'll say on the 16th day of the month this, you have the Passover, and it's an ordained date. It was based on an event when the Passover really happened. It was based on when Messiah coming. It was a date that God specifically said, and they just got put in their heart, we need to have a Passover. We're there, we're almost there. Let's try to have it. And then they realized, well, we're going to have to delay it. Let's just put it in the wrong month, but we'll still have the Passover for the Lord. It wasn't perfect. It just wasn't all that. And they changed the date. Many that did not come and mock them. I think of this so many times in life, and so many times in my situation, so many times in people's life I've seen before. I remember when we started the church. After a while, we realized we got to have one of these things called a website on that World Wide Web thing, and we had to have one. And here's a funny thing. Computer people came to me and said, you know what? Your church needs to have a website. I said, what's a website? He said, it's one of those things where you go to and you look it up. And I said, okay, yeah, we got to have one. How do you do that? And he said, well, I'm not going to be able to help you. I love those people, the pointers. They're awesome. And so, you know what? I called some people. I said, hey, do you know how to do a website? You know how to do a website? And nobody who knew how to do a website wanted to help me. So you know what I did? I built a website. And I did it on Publisher, Microsoft Publisher. And it wasn't the best way to do a website. And I didn't know how to do it. And I'm like, click, let's do that. Okay, here, I'll put a picture here. And let's put, this is what our church believes. And I worked really hard at it. And I worked really hard. And I was working a full-time job and busy doing 10 million things. And I got a website up. I figured out how to get web hosting. I found how to get a domain name. And we got findtheopendoor.org, and we got it all up. And all of a sudden, one day, I clicked a button, and all of a sudden, poof, we had a website up. And then I had a web guy call me, and who knew me and said, hey, brother, I knew him from college, says, hey, I do websites, and I noticed your website. Man, that thing's way too heavy. So what do you mean heavy? He says, man, that first page, it is so much. What programs do that? And I said, Publisher. Publisher? You can't do a website in Publisher. You got to use this and that and da-da-da. And you got to do this and this and this and this. You know what? I said, great, man. Can you help me? He says, well, about $500. $500, you might as well said, just walk to the moon. I mean, the church was so broke. I didn't have a penny. I said, I don't got a penny. I'm sorry about that. And he says, man, people aren't going to. But you know what? People came. You shouldn't do a website if it isn't all da-da-da. I don't sacrifice good on the altar of perfect. And we had a good amount of people come from that website. And it wasn't a very good website. But it was the best we had. If I could have found somebody who could do it, I'd have had him do it. But I've learned in life, very rarely in this world does every single thing line up perfectly. It's called a sin-cursed world. And I'm not justifying not doing your best. That was the best we could do as a church. I'm not justifying. Do your best and do as good as you can do. But do not say, well, I'm just not going to do it if I can't do it just right. If I don't have the... See, people are so afraid to fail. Or they're so afraid of the mockers that they will not do their best and let God bless it. And I bet you we had more people come from our website that God blessed because we did as best we could, than a whole bunch of people had really good websites, but were mockers. Because the hand of God. People have to realize that you do not sacrifice the good on the altar of the perfect. What do you do when it is not perfect? Number one, you go with those who want to go forward. Chapter 30. You go with those who want to go forward. Chapter 30 and verse 12. And it also in Judah, the hand of God was to give them one heart to do the commandment of the king and of the princes by the word of the Lord. And there assembled unto Jerusalem much people to keep the feast of unleavened bread. In the second month, a very great congregation. Wow, hey, look at we got a big crowd for the feast. Look at this. And they arose and took away the altars that were in Jerusalem, the false altars, and all the altars of incense they took away and cast them in a brook Kidron. Look, we just threw away all those idols and all those things. And they had a revival with those who wanted to. Go with those who want to do something and want to go forward. There's a major difference, I want to say, is between rebellious people and those who want to do right but can't do it perfectly. I'd rather have the new convert who doesn't know how to witness and walks up to him and says, hey, you know you're going to hell, and doesn't know quite how to witness, than the person who can sit here and tell you, well, if I was the witness, I could tell you this is the way to do it. You don't say this, you say it this way. Well, you don't witness. And it's amazing the people who don't witness are very critical of those who do. And they could do it better. But it never gets perfect. Just go with those who want to go forward. There was a major difference between the rebellious and those who wanted to do right. Sometimes things aren't perfect, but people want to do right, and they've got to go and do good as best they know how. Many of you feel like they say, I just don't know how to do things. If I did this, probably wouldn't be perfect. You know, I don't have all the knowledge. Go do what's good. And let God bless your best. Don't sit around and wait till everything's perfect, until you know how to do everything. It just doesn't work that way in life. You just got to do your best and let God take care of the rest. Verse 18, for the multitude of the people came even from Ephraim, Manasseh, Issachar, and Zebulun, had not cleansed themselves, yet did they eat the Passover. Not supposed to do that, other than it was written. But Hezekiah prayed for them, saying, the good Lord pardon everyone. They came, the Passover was going on, and they said, yes, we want to serve the Lord, and we're partaking the Passover. They weren't sanctified. Even the people were supposed to be sanctified before Passover, but they ate it, and Hezekiah looked over and said, you ever kind of go, oh, I didn't see that. And he said, Lord, bless them. They're not rebelling. I'm not trying to be disobedient. They don't even know the law. They came here because they wanted to celebrate and be part of the Passover, and they aren't sanctified. We barely got the priest, and the priest couldn't quite do all the stuff, so the Levites are helping them. It's a priest's job, but there's not a priest, so Levites are doing stuff. Everything's a little bit of a mess. It's the wrong time of year. The people are eating it. They're not sanctified, but they're not rebellious, Lord. They're trying. And you go with those who try. Do your best with what you have. And we see that. We see in all these things, they're trying. They're going and they do the sacrifice. The Levites, who are like the assistants but aren't really supposed to do some of the sacred things, the Levites had to do the priest's job because there wasn't enough priests. Because he said, we're going to have it. We're going to have this Passover. Not enough priests sanctified. Hey, Levites, hey, guys, you're the closest we got. Go ahead and you guys help them because they're not going to be able to keep up with these. There's too many people here. They brought too many offerings. And Levites, you're priests today. Just go do the thing. And they get it all done, and they do all the rituals, and all of a sudden, here's the Feast of Passover, and he sees these people in their homes, and they're doing the Passover meal, and he says, look at that family doing Passover meal. And the kids and the parents, they're all keeping the Passover, remembering coming out of Egypt, and they're not sanctified. And well, you know what? They want to serve God. You know what? I'm not going to destroy the good here because it's not perfect. I'm not going to look at the calendar. Hey, tear down the calendars. Let's not look at the calendars today. Because we're trying. And I don't even know why we're having Passover. We were a country with a temple closed, and all of a sudden God prospered us, and we said, let's try to have it. And now we're kind of late, and not enough priests, and Levites are doing jobs for the priests, and the people they're not sanctified. But you know what? This is good. It's the best we can do. And people remembering God, remembering coming out of Egypt, they're getting spiritual. This is good. Do your best with what you have. Look at, I guess we can look at some of these verses, 29, 34. But the priests were too few, so that they could not flay all the burnt offerings. Wherefore the brethren, the Levites, did help them, till the work was ended, and until the other priests had sanctified themselves. For the Levites are more upright in heart to sanctify themselves than the priests. Priests are really a mess, but they're trying to get themselves fixed and do the things and do the best they can. Number one, go with those who want to go forward. Number two, do your best with what you have. And there's a lot of verses. We read some of them. And number three, ask God to bless this mess. Ask God to bless this mess. Chapter 30. Chapter 30. And watch what Hezekiah does. In the middle of this, what a good leader he is. The mixed multitude, he saw that. They were eating the Passover in verse 18, other than it was written. But Hezekiah, toward the end of the verse, prayed for them, saying, the Lord God pardon everyone that prepareth his heart to seek God, the Lord God of his fathers, though he be not cleansed according to the purification of the sanctuary. And the Lord hearkened to Hezekiah and healed the people. God said, all right, Hezekiah, I get it. You guys are trying. There's going to be no punishment. You're all healed. I know it's the wrong date. I know you Levites did some things you might not weren't your deal. But you guys you people are all not sanctified. You're having the Passover. But you know what? You guys have come a long way and you're doing a good job. You're healed. You do what you do. You pray for God to bless this mess. That's what you do. I remember years ago, we just were concerned. We just weren't reaching the kids in our area, and we decided, let's have a big day. We don't have enough Sunday school teachers. Our old building, we didn't have a classroom. The only classroom we had was a narrow kitchen. And by the way, what a nightmare for a church. All this thing in this kitchen was a commercial kitchen. Everything was a sharp corner, waiting for a kid's head. And it was just a narrow. I mean, the room was it was from, I don't know, probably me to that wall long, and from the pulpit to here, it was barely wider than this beautiful decorative table we have here, and it was just a narrow room. That's all we had for a classroom. And I said, but you know what? Let's just have a big day. We'll just bring the kids into the auditorium, and we'll just have a big day on Sunday. And adults, you'll just watch as we preach to the kids and help us be workers. And we're just a little tiny dinky church. And we went and had this thing called Treasure Hunt. It came to my mind. You say, what are you going to do? How are you going to bring those kids to church? What are you going to do? I didn't know how to follow up on them. I didn't know anything else. But you know what? At least let them hear about Jesus and get saved. That's all I could do. And we went and we promoted it, and we didn't know how it would work or anything. And we had this treasure hunt. And I went to pick up the first load of kids. And man, there were so many kids waiting. And you know what? You know what our church bus was? A Dodge Caravan. And I looked, And there was over 30 children. And I said, oh, no. I thought, we'll bring 10 kids in. I'll stuff them in. I look, oh, no. So I jump out of my Dodge Caravan, keep my doors locked. That's a key with bus kids. Lock your doors. And I jump out and I said, all right, hey, listen, I can't fit all of you. I'll take some of you to church and I'll come back. And I drove and I said, honey, I got to go get a bunch more. Take these kids. Off I go again. Another load. Off, another load. 4 loads. I'm supposed to be running church. We had this service, and we were just shocked. All these kids came. And I'm driving the kids home, and all I said is, well, praise God, a lot of kids got saved. A lot of them heard the gospel. It's the best we can do. We don't have a van. We don't have a church vehicle. We don't have a bus. But you know what? A lot of kids heard the gospel today. Praise God. And on the way home, some of the kids said, hey, can you go back next week? I said, we're not having a treasure hunt next week. They said, no, we just want to go to church. I said, okay. But listen to me for a sec. If you understood how busy I was working a full-time job. I was exhausted all the time. We had to set up the entire building. I mean, we had to set up every classroom. It was a daycare. We had to clear everything out. We had to put in every chair. We had dividers to divide up the room, these massive 4-foot by 8-foot dividers. And we had to set up all that. We had to set up the nursery inside my wife's class. She had to teach the kids and the babies in this little room. We were so busy setting up. We had to take everything back and forth from church. We had no time for this. And I said, all right, listen, I don't have time to go get all of you and go to your houses this time. Wait in front of the office, and I'll come back next week at 9:30 and be waiting in front. I didn't visit anybody. I didn't have time. I didn't have time to round any of them up. And you know what? I went back next week, and there was a pile of kids waiting there. And our bus ministry started. Everything wasn't worked out. Where to put the kids wasn't worked out. But that bus ministry started. Now we got kids in Bible college in that bus ministry. We got workers. We got employees of our church from that bus ministry. We got soul winners in our church, adults from that bus ministry. Why? Because the best we could do was my Dodge Caravan. And don't ask how many I put in it. And a kitchen for a classroom. That's all we had. But if you're faithful with the least, and you do your best, and don't wait for everything to be perfect until let's wait till our church grows and we can buy a bus and da-da-da-da-da. Our church didn't grow big enough to buy a bus for another 8 years after that. That's what we had to do. Our bus ministry's bus was my vehicle for a long time. And that's just what but you don't wait for everything to be perfect. You don't wait for everything to be perfect. You just go forward and do your best and ask God to bless your mess. Don't sacrifice the good for perfect. You may have missed some opportunities in life, and you say, man, it's never going to be like it would have been. But don't sacrifice the good you could have by throwing up your hands. Well, if I had done this in life and this, but you didn't, and life's not perfect. You're in a sin-cursed world. You know what you do? You do the best with your life. Well, if I would have done this and made this choice or done this, my life would have been like, but it isn't. And if you throw your hands and say, well, just forget it then you're going to have a miserable life. But do not sacrifice the good, because you can have a very good life where God bless. And Hezekiah had a great Passover, and God blessed, and it happened suddenly. And he said, whoa, we just cleaned everything up, and everybody wants to come, and everything's good. Wow, this is great, because God blesses your good very much, but you don't sacrifice it. Don't sacrifice going to church because you don't find a perfect church. You say, church has some problems. Don't sacrifice the good for perfect. Of course church has problems. You go there. And of course it has problems. And well, I'm just not going to go to church. It's full of hypocrites. It's full of hypocrites because everybody who wasn't a hypocrite said, I won't go to church because it's full of hypocrites. And you know why? The way you're a hypocrite. You say you believe the Bible and don't go to church. You're a hypocrite at home, they're a hypocrite at church. But Open Door is not full of hypocrites. Okay? Don't sacrifice because you had a problem because somebody took your favorite spot, because somebody took the last donut. Don't sacrifice good on the altar of perfect. Everything's not going to be perfect. You know what you do? You do a really good job with what God's given you, and watch God bless it. And watch God bless it. Don't sacrifice good in the altar of perfect in your family. Your family might be troubled, scarred, broken, and duct taped together, glued. You say, it could have been like this, but it's not. And don't sacrifice the good. You might be surprised. You said God fixes things suddenly. Because why? Because you tried to keep the Passover? When the Passover was going to be on the wrong date? And there's not enough priests? Because you did not destroy the good because you wanted perfect. Many people do that. You say, my grades are not what I wanted them to be. I'm not even going to try. You're going to sacrifice the good on the altar of perfect. Well, if I can't pull an A, I'm not even going to try. Then you'll never get a B. You'll get an F. And you don't graduate. But you can get a 3.95 now. I wanted a 4.0. Why should I bother? Because a lot of people will hire you with 3.95. I hear. And don't sacrifice. Look, if all you can do is good, do good with your good, and God will bless your good. You'll be shocked. Your place in life right now is not perfect. Don't sacrifice it. Don't sacrifice a relationship that's good for a relationship that's perfect. Do not say, well, you know what? I got this debt, and I'm not going to pay it off, and so I'm not even going to try. No, you'll be surprised how you'll say this thing happens suddenly when you start trying. When you make an effort to fix this thing. God can prosper your great efforts into a great situation in an amazing way, but it's your efforts. Don't sacrifice the perfect. Many times in Open Doors history, we've had to say, we can't do perfectly. Let's just do our best. Let's just start making progress. Right now, we're doing a bunch of stuff with our media, and we don't have everything we want and every tool we want. But you know what? Let's just do what we can do. Let's just do the simple stuff. Let's do the stuff we can start with. Let's just start by opening the doors. You know how our ministry increase started? It started with me putting a message of the week. I can do that. Well, you can pay someone. You can do this. We probably can. We'll probably figure that out. You don't figure that stuff out until you start opening the doors to the church. And you just got to start and say, everything's not perfect, but you know what? I'm in a sin-cursed world. Everything's not perfect. Let me do my best. And say, you know what? I can't do, this is the best. And by the way, it doesn't mean you're lazy and say, well, I'm not going to try and ask God to bless it. No, you try. But sometimes where you are, you can't do perfect. Like Hezekiah couldn't. But he can say, let's open the doors. Hey, that worked good. Let's sanctify the priests. Hey, you guys did that pretty quick. Okay, good. Let's do some sacrifices. Let's talk to men of the city. You guys want to get right? Awesome. It's going pretty good. All right, let's go do these offerings. All right, you know what? Let's invite the whole city in. Oh, you guys aren't sanctified yet. Levites, let's help them because we got to get these sacrifices done. You see how when he just started going in an imperfect situation, it just got better. And then all of a sudden at the end, Hezekiah finally praised. They had Passover. A bunch of people were there. A bunch of things are sacrificed. People are keeping the Passover, and they're eating the meal, and the families are doing the things together like they're supposed to be. And he prays, and God heals them all. And as the guy said, it worked. That was an awesome Passover. And can I tell you the funny thing about all that? In life, what you find out? Hezekiah had a lot more Passovers. Every year he had it after that. On the right date, with enough priests sanctified, with the people sanctified, everything was awesome. But I guarantee you, having known and experienced life in this, do you know what Passover they talked the most about? The one on the wrong day. Because God helped them in that one. Because they were shocked at what God did when they started to try. Because they did their best. And they did not sacrifice and kill the good because they could not have perfect. And most of you, if I ask you, if I'm not going to, if I raise your hand and say, how many of you from right now, the perfect in your life has kind of been, it was back there a few miles. A lot of you would say, yeah, perfect. Things didn't work out perfectly. Things aren't lined up perfectly. That's most of us. But you know what you do? You do the best with the good and let God make it amazing. Don't sacrifice the good just because things aren't perfect on the altar of the perfect. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for the Bible that teaches us these things. And Lord, thank you for this great story of Hezekiah and all these good things that happen and how you bless the mess. And Lord, some of us have to ask you to bless our mess. But Lord, we're trying. And I pray you'd use it. And I pray we'd understand that we can't always do everything just exactly like we wish we could. But Lord, you're an amazing God who can heal things. And you can surprise us. And when the critics laugh and say it can't be done, we can still go forward and you can prosper it and have a great Passover and you were involved. And I pray, Lord, that our lives, we would not sacrifice the good in the altar of the perfect. And we do well if we can. We not wake up and miss part of our 8 o'clock class and say, well, I missed it. I might as well go back to sleep, and then miss 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock and chapel and 1 o'clock. Maybe not do that stuff, Lord. Maybe just serve you. Maybe just go and please you as best we can. And may we just have good be blessed by you that becomes amazing if perfect isn't available. Because you're an amazing God, and you're going to give us perfect in heaven on this earth, Lord. We've got to do really good is really good. And I pray we'd live that in Jesus' name. Our heads are bowed, our eyes are closed.